Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today.
What we can influence, really, we want to focus on this top box in terms of pupil engagement. I think we need to be realistic. There are a lot of external influences that pupils come into our settings with. That might be socio-economic, that might be parental support, that might be interest in the activities, personal bias, whatever that might be. There might be certain factors in your school. So, for example, the school I went to as a child, I can remember vividly, the facilities was a big issue when I was at secondary school in particular. And sometimes, there was 40 or 50 kids in a small space. But one thing I do remember from those times was that the teachers still managed to engage with us. The teachers still managed to make that positive experience as possible. So there are lots of external influences, but we're going to be thinking about today, and the mindset really, we want it to be around what we can influence as professionals and practitioners in our environment. We all come from different settings. All our schools and places of work are very, very different. But let's just try and focus on that influence part and keep in contact as well about what you can influence, and also what you've been influenced by.
Just before we go any further, I just wanted to back up a few things that I would imagine that the majority of us in the webinar today will know already. Just with a little bit of academic research, and as you can see on your screen, this research highlights that pupils are much more likely to succeed in learning if they're interested in what is being taught. Probably goes without saying, if they enjoy the experience, they're going to be more successful. And on the other hand, the students who are disengaged and frustrated ultimately have less success. And if they don't have that love of that subject, then it's very difficult for them to excel in it and achieving it. And so today we're going to share ideas and experiences and get your input on this topic of engaging pupils in PE. And the reason I've asked you that question is, can we use some of those interests, whether it is SpongeBob, Peppa Pig, Spider-Man, Ariana Grande, Steph Horton, whatever it is, can we use those hooks and interests that they have outside of school to engage them in PE? And for me, this box on the right-hand side of your screen now is what PE in primary is all about. Can PE be a break from reality whilst helping to develop the skills for reality? And you can see Ben, our colleague from the FA PE unit, in the picture there. He's setting a fantasy scenario to engage the pupils. And as far as they're concerned, they're going to be astronauts in their spaceships, avoiding aliens and getting to as many planets as they can. However, in the bottom box, I've just put some of the skills from the national curriculum and beyond that they're actually going to be developing, probably without the kids even realising it. Things like agility, changing speed, changing direction to get past the aliens. It might be that they're carrying a ball or bouncing a ball or dribbling a football and using coordination skills, the running and the jumping to get from one planet to the other, developing attacking skills to get past those aliens. You can see Ben's got them in little teams, so that element of teamwork and that holistic development around communication, the social side, the hundreds of decisions they're going to make in that game, as well as the resilience if things aren't going right straight away. All these things we're developing, the kids probably don't know that, but these are all the things we might, in our medium-term plan, concentrate on one or two of these elements to focus on for that half term. And this links nicely with the games-based approach and games-based learning that Paul's going to come on to later on in the webinar. And this is another example I used recently with a year 2 class in Middlesbrough. And again, as far as the pupils were concerned, they were just going to be little lion cubs avoiding the hyenas to get from one side of the desert to the other. But my objective as the teacher was the one at the bottom of the screen. Can we use agility to beat a defender in a competitive game? Now, the year 2 pupils I was working with don't need to know about that objective I've derived from the national curriculum. But if their parents were to ask them what they've done in PE today, they're probably much more likely to be able to tell them that they were looking for hyenas and trying to run past them and trying to avoid them. And, using that little hook is something that hopefully will make these things stick. And things like this can be really, really powerful, particularly with Key Stage 1. And at the start of this lesson, as the pupils were coming out to the playground, you can see the little lion toy there in the picture, and I'd hidden that in my kit bag, and I downloaded a lion roar sound effect on my phone. So as they were coming out, it was coming out of the speaker, this lion roaring, and straight away it hooked the kids in because they were looking round and where's that noise coming from, and it was a hook to get them in straight away. And to give you another example, this is something I saw on Twitter recently. It's actually from a football academy in America, but they work with primary school age students, as you can see. And this football academy, Riverhounds in Pittsburgh, really engaged with a hook, and as you'll see in the video.
Don't get checked by the director. Okay, next. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, time, freeze. Don't get checked by the director. Okay.
So I've just put a little checklist here, really, regarding some of the areas we've talked about so far, and that enjoyment and that fun is something that we've talked about all along. Is your lesson fun? I think other than safety, that's got to be our primary concern, isn't it? Is what we're delivering fun? Do the kids want to engage with it? Does it include some personal interests, whether it's TV programs or things that they're watching? Has it got that element of fantasy while all the time being a break from reality, but helping them with skills for reality? And of course, all these things meeting the different needs of the class of 30 that you've got in front of you. And I think these pictures demonstrate that even if you are one of the best footballers in the world, these things are still applicable when it comes to learning. Whether you're Raheem Sterling with that toy chicken there, or Ellen White, or Jesse Lingard on the Unicorns, or it's your year 3 class. All of these things, are vital when it comes to learning. And I think this links nicely with this quote, and one that I think we can resonate with no matter what age, from Maya Angelou. You can only become truly accomplished at something that you love. And finally, just with regarding visual engagement, I don't think this can be underestimated, which is the power of having strong, positive, visible role models. Whether it's incorporating Dina Rasher-Smith, Andy Murray, Jadon Sancho into the lesson objective, or you're planning or having the pictures of them on the classroom. They can be really inspirational and motivational for the students, and seeing those role models. But I think for me, the biggest role model of them all is you, the teacher, and this picture on the right-hand side. And I don't think we can underestimate the power of being a PE role model. And I think the main element to that is actually being in PE kit, being in tracksuit.
Just some content around this, really, in terms of what games are. So I've started with a £1 coin on there, because hopefully this resonates with a few of you on the call as well. Is if I had a £1 coin for every time a pupil asked me, sir, we're going to have a game today. We're having a game today, sir. I'd literally be a multi-millionaire. I'd be sat in the Bahamas doing this call. So we know that kids positively engage with games. We know that we can work across the 4 corners as well, and really encapsulate all that holistic development. So when I talk about the 4 corners, for those people that haven't seen that before, that's an FA approach to how we deliver PE and football in particular. So technical aspects, physical, the psychological aspects, and the social aspects leads to that holistic development, and games can often help us do that. It can also be a fantastic behaviour management tool as well. So being able to start with the game actually engages the children quicker, and is a really good entry point to the lesson as well. And I've put on there a little image of Generation Z. We are working with a different generation of children now that are engaged in different things, and as Ryan's alluded to, different hooks and different activities that we need to align to. And we see some fantastic practice up and down the country when we go into schools and watch coaches and teachers deliver. We see some great practice around that. So let's just drill down. Let's have a look at some of the components of what a game actually is and what we mean by a game. So I'm not going to go through these individually. What I do want to say from the outset is, within structuring a game and with us delivering a game in a PE lesson, we can dial up and dial down some of these components. So we can have more competition and less competition, and that can have certain impacts on the game itself. A game isn't just 1 ball and 2 goals, or a netball type game. A game can be TIG. A game can be something that uses the imagination, that uses the hooks that Ryan's talked about. It needs to make sure when we plan a game that it has got a specific goal and outcome. What I often see when I observe lessons in schools is that the goal and outcome can be too broad for PE. So for example, it might be today we are working on attacking within a game situation. Attacking is quite broad terminology. We need to be really specific over what we want the kids to work towards. Talk about safety on there as a component of a game as well. So that's not just physical safety. We need to ensure there's psychological safety there as well. We're going to look at how that can be done today and in next week's webinar as well, how you can create that safety net for the pupils where they feel comfortable accessing the lesson at a level they're comfortable with and accessing the game at a level they're comfortable with. So as I've said with rules as well, if we put too many rules into the game, that can lose some autonomy for the kids and can lose some differentiation. If we put not enough rules in, then obviously that can lead to a little bit too much chaotic nature of the game. Interactions is important within the games. Again, that's teacher and pupil interaction, but also interactions between the pupils themselves, problem solving, giving them things to discuss during the games, giving them little prompts. And that exploration factor as well during a game is really crucial to be able to develop a holistic element of the pupils. Two pictures going on in the same lesson on the left-hand side of this image. It's exactly the same lesson. It's an invasion game lesson. The game that the kids are playing in those two pictures is a game called Width to Win. So basically, when you've got the ball, you have to play the ball to the outside of the pitch before you can score. Now, the teacher, Amanda in this case, has differentiated this lesson so that the top players are playing with ball in hands. That's the level that they're ready to access invasion games at. But you notice at the bottom group are playing ball at feet. So the teacher has cleverly just differentiated the game slightly. We're all working on invasion games. We're all working on width to win is the focus, which is a principle of attacking, but we're working on it a slightly different way. And Amanda's actually in the third picture on the right-hand side, is looking at how she can shape the groups. So again, peer groups, we sometimes veer away from them for behaviour management, which is fine. But sometimes those are a really effective way of engaging pupils initially. Before then, we can start maybe being a little bit more careful and a little bit more tactical with our groupings, okay? So just some considerations around that. And as we've alluded to already, the role of the teacher is absolutely pivotal. Okay, in terms of the relationships, in terms of being able to have those conversations, in terms of being able to build rapport. And what games allows us to do as well is prevent whole group stops, which eat into lesson time. So if you picture a PE lesson where we're asking all the group to come back in, sit down, be quiet, stop picking the grass, stop picking your nose, we've all of a sudden eaten about 5 or 6 minutes away from people coming in. We can actually almost set up 4 different games or 4 small games going on, and we can rotate ourselves and facilitate those games and keep that activity level going, and then maybe just have conversations like we would do in a literacy or numeracy lesson with a small table at a time without making those whole group stops. So just a little trick of the trade there. So I'm going to just show or share a quick video with you. As the video is playing, just have a think about what Amanda's doing in the video to manage the difference, to consider individual needs, and how she's progressing the lesson on, and how also she creates some autonomy within the lesson as well.
Arm tennis. Key Stage 2 national curriculum. Enjoy communicating, collaborating and competing with each other. We are learning to create our own collaborative or competitive game. The teacher, Amanda, begins a session by demonstrating the game with one of the pupils.
We're going to play a little bit of arm tennis. You're going to get one of our bibs out of our bags and you're going to hold it with your partner. You're going to get one ball and you can choose whether you want to get a football, a tennis ball or a soft squidgy ball. The decision is yours. Okay, so we're going to bounce the ball, catch it, throw it over, catch it. Good girl, amazing. Bounce the ball, bounce it on the floor, good. Catch. Okay, now you can make the decision whether you work together with your partner or whether you work in competition. Off we go. So you can play it a little bit more like volleyball. Keep it moving a little bit more. Yeah, good. Try to move the ball a little bit quicker, boys. Little bit quicker, little bit quicker. Yes, good.
The teacher works with the children to help them understand the importance of listening to each other's ideas, taking turns, sharing equipment and playing fairly.
Are we keeping score or working together? Working together? Good. How many are you up to? Can you do it while moving that direction? Yeah, good.
Amanda encourages the pupils to adapt and develop their games by devising new rules and introducing additional equipment.
I'm going to challenge you. Can you play with a tennis ball instead of the football? Okay, there you go. Thank you very much. Amazing, great work, well done. Okay, so that's going to be like your target area in between the two. Fab, let's try that then. So we'll be playing with our feet. Okay, off we go then. What can we do with it? Hey, love it, well done. Good. Oh, what a great game that is. I really like that one, well done. So we've got two pieces of equipment going at the same time. Really like that, well done. Let's see it in action. Brill.
To encourage communication, each member of the class switches partners so they can share their games with the other pupils.
The quote is this: kids deserve an excited adult. They need someone who's ready to explore and laugh with them. Kids often have far more issues to deal with than we realise. School is their safety net. They need us to surround them with love, encouragement and hope.
And these, we'd say were our key tips that we've talked about today in terms of engaging those pupils in PE and making the lesson fun, like we've talked about right from minute one. And, alongside that, ensuring that the lesson manages the learner difference. And we're going to do lots more work on that going forward in terms of our CPD together. High active learning time through those games that Paul delved into, incorporating the pupils' interests as a hook, and one of the most important things of being that PE role model, which again we can't underestimate the power of that. And just to go back to those three questions that Paul posed to you at the start. So hopefully in the last hour, you have had things that have been confirmed. Things think, yes, I'm doing that right. Which is brilliant. Hopefully you've got a few things, maybe some more questions for us. Want to challenge us around some of the things that we've said, which we would absolutely invite and really encourage you to do that. And fingers crossed that there's one or two things which has made you curious and want to delve into a little bit further